Welcome to our History Channel. History too real for the Westerns. Tonight's episode, Stories of the Mountain Men, John Colter's Death Run. In 1809, on a chilly morning in southwestern Montana, two men quietly paddled their canoes down the Jefferson River. Their names were John Potts and John Colter. Both had been members of the famed Lewis and Clark expedition, and were some of the only non-natives on the continent familiar with this area. Their canoes were laden with beaver pelts, the reason for the joint business venture the two had launched the year before. The previous year, both men had come under attack while leading a contingent of natives from the Flathead and Creek tribes on a trapping expedition through the territory of their mortal enemies, the feared and venerable Blackfoot. Colter, as a matter of fact, had suffered a leg wound in the attack, though it was not serious. Now, as the two men returned to Blackfoot country to again try their luck and ply their trade, the pair came around a bend to what must have been a truly horrifying sight. Hundreds of Blackfoot warriors were standing on the shoreline, and as the canoes pulled up even with them, they demanded the men come ashore immediately. Here, a critical choice was to be made by John Potts and John Colter. Colter decided to take his chances and comply, believing the Blackfoot wanted only to rob them of their pelts and supplies, a major inconvenience, but not necessarily a mortal one. Potts, meanwhile, decided he would not be making the trip ashore. He stayed put as Colter paddled in. As soon as Colter's canoe grounded on the bank of the river, he was pulled out, disarmed, stripped naked, and the bounty of his canoe was seized. Potts was again commanded to come ashore, but again steadfastly refused. As he refused, a Blackfoot stepped forward and shot him with a musket, putting a ball into Potts' hip. Potts took cover, ducking down low in his canoe, took aim, and fired back, killing the brave who had shot him. Potts' canoe and body were then riddled with bullets and arrows from the hundreds of Blackfoot present, and his life was shortly snuffed out there on the cold river thousands of miles from his home. Potts' corpse and his canoe were then brought to shore, and as his goods were divvied up among the warriors, his body was hacked to pieces. His hands were cut off, his intestines were pulled out, his liver was pulled out, his testicles were cut off, and as each of these body parts were severed from their owner, the gore was rubbed in the naked and horrified John Colter's face. Covered in the blood and entrails of his longtime friend and business partner, Colter was sure he would be executed next. But a short meeting was held among the elder warriors present, and when they broke, Colter was asked whether he was a good runner. Colter, a tall, lean, and powerfully built man, was renowned for his endurance and strength. But, guessing the game that might be afoot, he replied that he was in fact a very poor runner. A Blackfoot chief walked Colter away from the group, pointed towards the open territory, heading away from the river, and said, "Go!" Colter took off at top speed, hoping to get as much of a head start as possible. Soon, a large pack, different accounts set them from around a dozen to several dozen, began to chase after him, bows and spears in hand. After several miles of running at max effort through river-strewn, mountain-edged and timber-spotted prairie, Colter's nose began to bleed from the strain, and his entire torso became caked in both his blood and the dried and now likely quite pungent remains of John Potts. But his efforts had managed to put a large divide between him and nearly all of his pursuers. One warrior, though, had managed to hang in with Colter through his entire flight so far, and was now closing ground at a deadly pace. However, he was so exhausted that he stumbled when he attempted to raise his spear to run Colter through, and fell on his lance, accidentally breaking it into two pieces. Colter grabbed the pointed end and stabbed the warrior to death with it, before taking off again after taking the now dead Blackfoot's blanket. After another 5 miles, he came across a beaver dam and a river. He dove into the icy river, swam underneath the dam just like a beaver, and hid inside the dam until nightfall, all while the Blackfoot, who had trailed him there, went up and down the river trying to fight. When they eventually relented and left, Colter emerged from the dam and walked, climbed, and crawled another 11 days to a trader's fort on the Little Bighorn River. He would recover from his ordeal, return again to the mountains, and try to build his own fort with new business partners. However, after going out to check their traps and returning to find that the Blackfoot had killed everyone in camp, 17 people, he fled the mountains for good, never to return. Colter moved to Missouri, married, and died in 1815, though there is some debate to that, and the exact cause remains unknown. John Colter's run and his life have gone down as legend in the history of the mountain men, but his story is only one of the many. Only here on the best history show this side of the Rockies, History at the OK Corral.